What's up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Ever since PlayStation officially revealed the next God of War game, God of War, Laufey, the gaming community has been completely split. Some players are excited about the fresh direction the franchise seems to be taking, while others are worried that this could be the beginning of a major shift away from what made the series legendary in the first place. After watching the trailer multiple times, I can honestly understand both sides. The reveal raised a lot of questions. Is this the bold evolution that God of War needs? Or is Sony taking a risk that could divide longtime fans? Today, we're breaking down everything we currently know about God of War, Laufey. We'll go through the story, the characters, the gameplay changes, the world, and some of the biggest details hidden throughout the reveal trailer. Later in the video, we'll also talk about the huge debate that's currently taking place online and look at both the positive and negative reactions from fans. So before making up your mind, stick around until the end because there's a lot more happening here than what you might have noticed during your first viewing. Let's jump in. The game was officially revealed during a PlayStation State of Play presentation, and right from the start, one thing immediately stood out: the title. Instead of focusing on Kratos, the logo places enormous emphasis on the name Laufey. In fact, the word Laufey feels even more prominent than God of War itself. For those unfamiliar with Norse mythology, Laufey is a significant figure. She is traditionally known as Loki's mother, and in the God of War universe, she is none other than Faye, the wife of Kratos and the mother of Atreus. Interestingly, the name Laufey is believed to be connected to concepts such as foliage, leaves, and vegetation in ancient Norse language roots, which could explain some of the nature-focused imagery we see throughout the trailer. Although the game is currently listed as coming soon, the reveal suggests that it is targeting a release window in 2027. Players can already add the game to their PlayStation wishlist. At least for now, the title appears to be a PlayStation 5 exclusive. While previous PlayStation exclusives eventually made their way to PC, Sony's strategy has changed significantly over the past few years, so it's currently unclear whether this game will ever receive a PC version. As for the genre, this is still very much a God of War game. It's an action-adventure title played from a third-person perspective, but from what we've seen so far, the combat appears noticeably faster and more agile than previous entries. There's a stronger hack-and-slash influence with an emphasis on movement, aerial combat, and fluid action sequences. Behind the scenes, the project is being directed by Aria Lawrence, a veteran writer, producer, and developer who has worked on the God of War franchise before. Meanwhile, the story itself is reportedly being written by Cory Barlog, the creative force behind some of the most beloved entries in the series. The lead role is being performed by actress Deborah Ann Woll, a well-known performer whose previous work has earned praise from both critics and audiences. Fans are naturally hoping that her performance will bring the same emotional depth that has become a trademark of modern God of War storytelling. And just like recent entries in the series, the game is expected to support multiple languages, including full localization options for international audiences. But now, let's talk about what really matters: the story. One of the biggest misconceptions online is that God of War, Laufey, is some kind of spin-off or side project. Based on everything we've seen so far, that doesn't appear to be the case. This is being presented as a major entry in the franchise, one that directly expands the core narrative of the series rather than branching away from it. The story seems to combine elements of Greek-style mythological storytelling with the Norse world established in the recent games. What's especially interesting is where the story begins. The trailer takes us back to one of the most emotional moments from God of War, 2018, the death of Faye. Fans will remember the opening sequence where Kratos and Atreus perform her funeral rites. In the new trailer, we revisit that exact moment, but from a completely different perspective. The camera angle changes, the context changes, and suddenly, what looked like the end of a story may actually have been the beginning of another. According to the information revealed so far, Faye's death may not have been the end of her journey at all. Instead, she awakens within a mysterious realm unlike anything we've seen before. A strange world that appears to exist beyond the boundaries of the known realms. This realm is filled with secrets, powerful magic, and creatures that seem fundamentally different from anything encountered in previous God of War games. More importantly, Faye discovers that the protections she spent years putting in place for Kratos and Atreus are now under threat. If these safeguards fail, both Kratos and Atreus could become vulnerable to forces they've never faced before. And that realization appears to become the driving force behind her journey. Who is threatening these protections? What exactly is this mysterious realm? And why does it seem connected to the origins of magic itself? Those questions appear to form the foundation of the game's central mystery, and based on what we've seen so far, God of War. Laufey may be preparing to answer one of the biggest questions left behind by the Norse saga. What happens to gods after death? Because whatever lies beyond death in this universe, it looks like that's exactly where this story is taking us. Now let's dive deeper into what the trailer actually shows us. From the very beginning, it's clear that Santa Monica Studio isn't simply telling another traditional God of War story. This new adventure appears to take place in a realm unlike anything we've explored before. The world shown throughout the trailer feels mysterious, surreal, and almost dreamlike. As Faye begins exploring this strange dimension, one thing becomes obvious. This place is deeply connected to magic. Not just magical creatures or magical powers, but the very source of magic itself. Several clues throughout the trailer suggest that this realm may be where magical forces originate, or at the very least where some of the most ancient forms of magic were first created. That alone could make it one of the most important locations ever introduced in the God of War universe. And if that's true, it would explain why so many powerful beings seem interested in controlling it. Throughout the trailer, we see horrifying creatures, strange entities, and supernatural beings unlike anything from previous games. Some of them appear intelligent, some seem ancient, and others look like they belong in a nightmare. What's interesting is that these enemies don't simply feel like monsters placed there to be defeated. Instead, they appear to be part of a larger mystery surrounding the realm itself. Many of them seem to possess powerful magical abilities, and some may even play a direct role in maintaining or threatening the protections Faye left behind for Kratos and Atreus. As Faye continues her journey, the trailer constantly hints that there are secrets hidden everywhere. Every environment feels packed with unanswered questions. Who built these structures? What happened here before Faye arrived? And why does this place feel connected to both life and death? One particularly fascinating detail involves Odin. Throughout the Norse saga, Odin was obsessed with knowledge. More than anything, he wanted answers about what lies beyond death. The trailer strongly suggests that this new story may finally explore that mystery. If that's true, God of War, Laufey could end up answering questions that have been lingering since Ragnarok. Questions about the afterlife, questions about fate, and questions about where even gods go once their story comes to an end. As the trailer progresses, we begin meeting some of the new characters that will accompany Faye on her journey, and one of them immediately stands out. A bizarre cube-shaped creature. At first glance, it almost looks harmless, but the more you watch, the stranger it becomes. The creature appears to be made from some kind of magical energy and seems capable of speaking with multiple voices. Its design is unusual even by God of War standards, making it one of the most memorable reveals in the trailer. What's even more interesting is its role. Rather than acting like a traditional NPC, this creature appears to travel alongside Faye throughout parts of the adventure. In several scenes, it assists her directly, suggesting that it could function as a companion character similar to Atreus in previous games. Whether it's there for combat support, puzzle solving, comic relief, or story development remains unclear. But it's obvious that Santa Monica wants players to pay attention to it, because the trailer gives it a surprising amount of screen time. Another thing that immediately caught my attention was the creature design. Some of the monsters shown throughout the trailer are genuinely bizarre. They're detailed, creative, and unlike anything we've seen before in the franchise. Massive twisted beasts, humanoid creatures with unnatural proportions, ancient-looking magical entities, and gigantic monsters that immediately remind you of the larger-than-life encounters that made God of War famous. Honestly, some of these designs are so unusual that they almost don't look human-made. They're packed with intricate details and unexpected combinations of features that make them feel truly alien. Whether you love them or hate them, one thing is certain: they leave an impression, and in a series built around mythology and larger-than-life creatures, that's exactly what you want. The world itself follows that same philosophy. Everything feels bigger, stranger, more mysterious, and far more unpredictable than the environments we've explored in recent God of War games. Rather than revisiting familiar Norse locations, Santa Monica seems determined to push players into entirely new territory. And based on the trailer, that decision may end up being one of the game's biggest strengths, because for the first time in years, nobody really knows what to expect from a God of War game. In that sense of mystery might be exactly what makes this journey so exciting. Now let's talk about the part that probably got the biggest reaction from players, the gameplay. Because whether you're excited about the story or skeptical about the new protagonist, one thing is undeniable. The gameplay looks very different from what we've seen in recent God of War titles. And honestly, that's where things start getting really interesting. From the moment gameplay footage begins, it's clear that Santa Monica Studio is pushing the series toward a much more agile and dynamic style of combat. The first thing that immediately stands out is movement. For years, Kratos was designed to feel powerful, heavy, and grounded. Every attack carried weight. Every movement felt deliberate. Faye, however, appears to be the complete opposite. She's fast, she's agile, and she moves through combat with a level of fluidity we've never seen before in the franchise. Throughout the trailer, we see her jumping, dashing, sliding, and launching enemies into the air before chaining attacks together. That alone represents a significant shift from the combat philosophy of the previous games. In fact, the combat almost feels closer to a modern hack and slash title than the slower, heavier combat style introduced in God of War 2018. And for many players, that's an exciting change. One of the biggest reveals is the introduction of enhanced platforming mechanics. For the first time in years, movement itself appears to play a major role in gameplay. The trailer shows Faye performing jumps across environments, navigating obstacles, and moving vertically through levels in ways that simply weren't possible with Kratos. This may sound like a small detail, but it could have a huge impact on the exploration. More verticality means more opportunities for hidden areas, optional paths, environmental puzzles, and secret rewards. The world itself may become much more interactive than before, and if Santa Monica fully commits to these mechanics, exploration could feel fresher than ever. Combat is where the biggest evolution appears to be taking place. Several sequences show enemies being launched into the air and juggled through extended combo chains. Players can transition between ground attacks and aerial attacks almost seamlessly. That may sound familiar to fans of character action games like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta. While God of War isn't becoming those games, it does seem to be borrowing some of the fluidity and freedom that makes those combat systems so satisfying. The result is a combat style that looks faster, more responsive, and significantly more expressive. Players may have far more freedom to create their own combo routes rather than relying on predetermined attack patterns. The trailer also introduces several new magical abilities. One particularly interesting mechanic appears to involve separating an enemy's soul from its physical body. Rather than simply damaging opponents until their health reaches zero, some encounters may require players to interact with both physical and spiritual forms. If that's true, combat could become far more strategic than it initially appears. Instead of focusing purely on damage output, players may need to understand enemy mechanics and exploit specific weaknesses. That would add another layer of depth to battles. Faye's weaponry also appears to offer unique possibilities. In several scenes, her blade seems capable of transforming and extending in unusual ways. At times, it almost behaves like a whip, allowing attacks to cover greater distances and hit multiple enemies at once. Combined with her speed and mobility, this gives combat a completely different identity from Kratos' Leviathan axe and Blades of Chaos. The goal doesn't seem to be replacing Kratos. Instead, Santa Monica appears to be creating an entirely different combat experience built around Faye's strengths. And then there's the companion system. The mysterious cube-like creature we discussed earlier isn't just there for story purposes. Throughout combat sequences, it actively participates in battles. We see it attacking enemies, supporting Faye, and contributing to encounters in meaningful ways. This immediately brings back memories of Atreus in the previous games. However, the relationship here seems fundamentally different. Rather than functioning as a son learning from his father, this companion feels more mysterious and unpredictable. Exactly how it will evolve throughout the story remains unknown, but it's clear that it will play an important role both narratively and mechanically. Now, let's talk about bosses, because no God of War game would be complete without larger-than-life boss fights. The trailer only offers brief glimpses of these encounters, but what we see is incredibly promising. Several enemies appear to feature unique combat mechanics rather than serving as simple damage sponges. Players may need to learn attack patterns, identify weaknesses, and adapt their strategies throughout the fight. This is something Santa Monica has been improving with every release, and it looks like the trend will continue here. More importantly, the boss encounters still retain the cinematic spectacle that has become a defining feature of modern God of War. Massive creatures, explosive action sequences, dynamic camera work, and those unforgettable moments where gameplay and storytelling blend together seamlessly. Speaking of presentation, the visuals are absolutely stunning. This should come as no surprise. Santa Monica Studio has consistently delivered some of the best graphics in the industry, and God of War, Laufey appears to continue that tradition. The environmental detail is remarkable. Every location feels handcrafted. Every surface is packed with intricate textures and visual storytelling. The lighting system is particularly impressive. Several scenes showcase beautiful natural lighting, dramatic shadows, and atmospheric effects that significantly enhance immersion. Whether exploring ancient ruins, magical landscapes, or mysterious dimensions, the game constantly looks breathtaking. And it's not just about graphical fidelity. The art direction is equally strong. The world feels distinct from previous God of War entries while still maintaining the franchise's identity. It's familiar enough to feel like God of War, yet different enough to feel like a genuine new chapter. Perhaps the most impressive aspect of the presentation is how seamlessly the game transitions between gameplay and cinematic storytelling. This has been one of Santa Monica Studios' greatest strengths since the 2018 reboot. The camera flows naturally between gameplay and cutscenes. Characters interact with the environment in real time. Action sequences blend directly into player-controlled moments, and the result is an experience that feels incredibly immersive. Some people criticize this approach by calling it too cinematic, but the truth is that cinematic storytelling has become one of the defining characteristics of modern God of War. It's part of the franchise's identity. And based on this trailer, Santa Monica hasn't lost its touch. If anything, they appear to be pushing it even further than before. And if the final game delivers on what we've seen so far, players could be looking at one of the most visually impressive action-adventure games of this generation. Now comes the most controversial part of this entire discussion, the reaction. Because ever since God of War, Laufey was revealed, the internet has been absolutely flooded with debates, arguments, hot takes, and strong opinions from every corner of the gaming community. And what's interesting is that both sides believe they're protecting what makes God of War special. So, let's break down the biggest arguments we've seen so far. Why some fans are excited. Let's start with the positive side. The players who walked away from the trailer feeling optimistic. 1. The gameplay looks fresh. The most common praise revolves around the gameplay itself. Many fans believe the series desperately needed a change after Ragnarok, not because the combat was bad, far from it, but because it was beginning to feel familiar. Laufey appears to introduce a completely different combat philosophy. The increased mobility, the aerial combos, the faster pacing, the platforming mechanics. All of these changes make the game feel distinct from Kratos' recent adventures. For many players, that's exactly what a new protagonist should bring. Not a copy of Kratos, something different, something new. 2. The visual design feels bold. Another point of praise is the game's artistic direction. Many fans were impressed by the creature designs, environments, magical effects, and overall presentation. The trailer feels unlike anything we've seen from the franchise before. The world appears stranger, more mysterious, more fantastical. And while some people see that as a negative, others view it as a sign that Santa Monica is willing to take creative risks. Instead of simply repeating the same formula, they're trying to expand the universe. And many fans appreciate that ambition. 3. The new world feels interesting. A lot of positive reactions focus on the setting itself. The mysterious realm introduced in the trailer immediately raised questions. Where is this place? How does it connect to the Norse saga? What role does it play in the larger mythology? The unknown nature of the world has generated a lot of excitement. After spending years exploring the 9 realms, many players are ready for something entirely different. 4. Faye is not a random character. Another argument frequently made by supporters is that Faye isn't some newly invented character being inserted into the story. She's been part of the narrative since God of War, 2018. In many ways, the entire Norse saga exists because of her actions. She shaped the journey, she influenced Kratos, she guided Atreus, She set countless events into motion before the story even began. Supporters argue that giving her a dedicated game isn't forcing a new character into the franchise. It's finally allowing players to learn more about one of the most important figures in the entire series. Why some fans are concerned. Now, let's look at the other side. The players who reacted negatively to the reveal. Whether you agree with them or not, these concerns are being voiced by a significant portion of the community. 1. God of War without Kratos doesn't feel like God of War. This is probably the most common criticism. For many players, Kratos is God of War. The character and the franchise have been linked together for over 2 decades. When people hear the words God of War, they immediately think of Kratos. So when a game carries the title but shifts focus to another protagonist, some fans naturally feel disconnected. From their perspective, it feels like removing the heart of the franchise. Whether that's fair or not is up for debate, but it's a concern many longtime fans share. 2. Some players wanted Kratos' story to continue. Another criticism has nothing to do with Faye herself. Instead, it's about what players hoped would happen next. For years, fans have speculated about Kratos visiting other mythologies: ancient Egypt, ancient China, Mayan mythology, Japanese folklore. There have been endless theories about where the franchise could go after Ragnarok. Some players were expecting the next major chapter to continue Kratos' journey directly. When the reveal focused on Faye instead, those expectations immediately turned into disappointment. 3. The tone feels different. Some fans believe the game's atmosphere feels less grounded than previous entries. The colorful, magical environments, the whimsical creature designs, the surreal visual style. All of these elements have led some players to compare parts of the trailer to fantasy films rather than traditional God of War. Supporters see creativity. Critics see a departure from the darker tone they fell in love with. 4. Concerns about innovation. Ironically, while some players praise the gameplay changes, others argue the opposite. They believe the core structure still looks very similar to the recent games. Explore, fight enemies, watch cinematic sequences, solve puzzles, repeat. To these critics, the improvements aren't revolutionary enough to justify a major new installment. Some have even suggested that the game currently looks more like an expansion than a true evolution of the franchise. Whether that criticism remains valid will depend entirely on how much the final game expands upon what we've seen. So, where do I stand? After looking at both sides, I think it's still far too early to make any definitive judgment. The truth is that we've only seen a trailer. A trailer can create excitement. A trailer can create concern. But it can't tell us everything. What I will say is this. The game looks ambitious, it looks different, and it looks willing to take risks. Sometimes those risks pay off, sometimes they don't, but without taking risks, franchises eventually become stagnant. At the same time, I completely understand why some fans feel protective of Kratos and the legacy he built. God of War means something different to different people. For some, it's Kratos' story. For others, it's the mythology, the world, and the gameplay. And that's exactly why this reveal has generated so much discussion. At the end of the day, the most important question isn't whether the internet loves the trailer or hates it. The real question is, what do you think? Are you excited about God of War? Laufey? Do you think Faye deserves her own game, or would you rather see the franchise continue focusing exclusively on Kratos? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to see where everyone stands on this. And who knows, once we gather enough opinions, we might do another video breaking down the community's overall reaction. If you enjoyed this analysis and want to see more deep dives into upcoming games, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. As always, thank you for watching, and a special thanks to everyone who stayed all the way until the end. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.